Hello, Jason Munson here with Pellet Stove Pro, and I thought I'd do a little bit of a tutorial on how to know if your control board is bad. You might come out to a situation like this where you are hitting buttons on the control board or you're turning on the thermostat and nothing is happening and you're wondering if your control board is actually bad. So here's a few things you can check. Number one, is the stove plugged in? I know that's sounds stupid, but sometimes that is. Number two, is there a fuse? You can see on this control board, there's not a fuse. But on some stoves, there is a fuse, and you might be in a situation where that fuse is actually bad. That doesn't necessarily mean your control board is bad. The way that you would test that is you would want to go ahead and disconnect the motors and other components from the stove, like the exhaust fan and the auger motor and the convection fan, and start with those three and then turn on the stove, see if the fuse stays. If the fuse works, then unplug the stove, plug in one of those components, and then plug the stove back in and see if the fuse stays. If the fuse pops, well, then you know that it's one of those components that's causing it. But if you have all those components disconnected and the fuse is still popping, then you might have a wire that's touching something. So you might disconnect the other wires from the control board. And if the fuse stays, well, then you know it's one of those components. But if the fuse pops, then it's a bad control board. There's some other things that could be a bad control board. If you're on a Whitfield Profile or Traditions series stove and you have an irregular fuel feed, either it's feeding too much or it's not feeding enough, replace the photo eye first. If you replace the photo eye and you still have the same problem, then you have a bad control board. But on most other stoves, your symptoms are not going to include, for instance, feeding too much, not feeding enough, a motor not running fast enough or running too slow, or even a motor not turning on. If you have a motor that's not turning on, it's usually the motor that's bad. Or you have a motor that will run intermittently, turning on for a few minutes and then shutting off, turning off for a few minutes and shutting off. Usually a bad motor in those cases. Control board failures are actually really, really rare. And typically, when they fail, it's nothing's working, nothing turns on. That's typically what a control board failure looks like. It's very rare to have some other condition or something that's not working quite right. Control boards, when they fail, it's not something quite right. It's something all the way gone, done, toast. We rebuild control boards. We build remote control boards at pelletstovepro.net. If you search into the little search box there, just say repair. Just type in repair, and you'll come up and see all of the different types of control boards that we can actually repair. If you have a question about a control board repair, if you're not really sure, you can email me at ebay@jasonrmunson.com. That's ebay@jasonrmunson.com. Be more than happy to help out with that. Otherwise, we do sell some control boards on pelletstovepro.net, and we do repair a lot of control boards on pelletstovepro.net. So I hope that helps out. I'm Jason Munson, the Pellet Stove Pro. Have a warm winter.